Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kartika, and I'm from LeadSquared's marketing team. We have a very exciting session today where we will be discussing about EdTech in Africa, democratizing education through technology. So let me introduce our amazing speakers. We have Mr. Sharaf Mohammed, who is the Senior Vice President of ULISTEN. Sharaf, thank you so much for joining us today. Please tell us a bit about you and your journey so far.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Sharaf Mohammed. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for ULISTEN. So I am in charge of sales, distribution, marketing, hardware sales, and the rest of those items for ULISTEN. ULISTEN is the venture-backed education technology startup that services Africa. What we try to do is to curate video lessons that help children in learning.
Thank you so much, Sharaf. Looking forward to learning from you today. And from
Yeah.
LeadSquared, we have Mr. Sridhar Sampath, who is the Vice President of Partnerships and Business Development. Sridhar, please tell us a bit about you and let us know your journey so far.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kartika. And once again, Sharaf, thank you so much for joining us today. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, whichever part of the world you're in. Very exciting and looking forward to this session. I think Africa has been one of the key segments of one of the key regions that LeadSquared intends to focus on going forward as well. And as people on the call might already know, LeadSquared has a very strong presence in the EdTech space and very keen to understand a little more about the market and go forward with this discussion with you, Lesson.
Thank you so much, Sridhar. We also have Ms. Chantel Fraser here. She is the head of enterprise businesses here at LeadSquared. Hi, Chantel. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Kartika. Yeah, it's great to be with Sharaf and Sridhar on the stage today. I've been with LeadSquared since 2019. I'm also deeply passionate about working with startups across Africa, where not only do I get to learn, but also transfer my knowledge and experience, to help our clients develop processes and systems, that ultimately result in high performance. So, glad to be joined up with these two really great guys today.
Thank you so much, Chantel. Thank you so much to all the speakers for joining us. Looking forward to learning from you all. But before that, before I hand the session over to the speakers, a few pointers to the audience. We do have a question tab. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please do put it up. It'll be towards the right-hand corner of your screen. We will take them up towards the end of the session. And also, we'll put up a few polls. So please do interact with them. We'd love to learn from you and know more about you. Yes, so with that, I am going to hand the session over to Sridhar. Please take it forward.
Thank you so much, Kartika. And once again, good evening to all of you. So like the topic suggests, we're going to be talking a little bit today and have a freewheeling discussion around education and the role of technology, the role that technology is going to play in education in the continent. Why Africa? I think there's a very surprising statistic that I came across today when I was looking up information around Africa, and I understand that about 40% of the entire population of the African continent is below 15 years of age, which is a staggering number, which means that there's going to be tremendous potential for growth in education, in higher education, in upskilling of population going forward over the next 10, 15 years. So it is certainly one of potentially the fastest growing economic and developmental regions of the world today. But that said, of course, there are infrastructural and technological challenges in the region as well, which I think companies such as ULISTEN and other EdTech startups are trying to address the gaps in the education infrastructure. The market in the EdTech market or the Africa e-learning market is quite substantial. I was surprised to hear that it is valued at about $1.5 billion in 2021 and expected to grow over the next 6 years to hit about $10 billion by 2027. So clearly the future for the role of technology in education in Africa is extremely bright. Today we'll probably talk a little more about the EdTech space in Africa and understand what's going on with Nigeria, with parts of Africa and sub-Saharan Africa from Sharaf, who comes from ULISTEN, and as he mentioned, it's one of the better funded and one of the fastest growing EdTechs from Nigeria. So Sharaf, just to kick off the conversation, maybe a little bit around some of the metrics and numbers around Africa. What we understand is that primary school enrollment is about there's a substantial amount of primary school enrollment in the continent. Roughly 80% of kids do end up going to school, but from there, the drop-off to, let's say, higher secondary school and higher education is pretty steep. So what are the key challenges that the continent or the country is facing today in taking kids through this education challenge and, and bringing out high-quality talent at the end of the 10, 12 years of formal education?
Yeah, so there are a few challenges here and there. What you discover, like you said, is that it kind of fizzles out as kids grow up and try to move into secondary and then tertiary education. So you find out that it's affordability is one of the first challenges, and it is because things get more expensive as you progress, right? So secondary school is more expensive, and then tertiary is even much more expensive. So affordability is a big challenge for lots of families in Africa, and that's why you see people kick off. The next one is access. You also find that there are not enough institutions. Like you have said, we have the largest number of youth population in Africa, right? But the number of institutions that are there to have these kids come in and have secondary and tertiary education kind of reduces. So there's a lot of competition to get into those schools, and those schools are not even in every nook and cranny of the African society. So some people don't get to have the opportunity to go to such schools. Another one is quality. So you find that in some public, especially the public institutions, you find not enough or qualified tutors, right? So you don't have the right people with the right skills that can pass this knowledge to the kids that we have in school. And then you also have challenges with the tools, which is like infrastructure. So sometimes you have a science lab that is virtually empty, and you don't have enough resources to actually, try out these experiments or have practical knowledge of the things that you have learned theoretically. You don't have devices in the hands of kids for learning. You don't have, you're studying computer science, and you probably never even seen a real computer before. Those are the kind of challenges that we have in Africa.
Okay.
So Sharaf, those sound like some key big challenges. And, as you mentioned, I think, affordability is up there, accessibility and quality obviously seem to be some of those major challenges at the moment. How do you see EdTech closing this gap, or closing some of these gaps at least?
So what EdTech does is bring digital to classrooms, right? So you have the physical classroom, you have the learning as it is today, but we're trying to bring digital because digitalization enables skill. It allows you to reach people who ordinarily you might not have been able to reach, right? So if we talk about access, for instance, what we're doing is leveraging devices and internet in the hands of people who can afford it or who can reach it, so that they're able to consume this education via the devices that have been given to them. So what has happened in this angle is, even though devices are seen to be expensive, they're getting much cheaper than they used to be when the whole penetration or telecommunication rollout came to be. So things are a bit more better, data is more affordable. So those are the things that are used to close the gaps. In terms of affordability also, partnership, lots of partnerships are happening right now. So you're talking to telcos, you're talking to NGOs, you're talking to people who can afford and put this digital education in a skill that can be consumed by the kids. And then for quality, you try to upskill the tutors, right? You try to have them have, maybe they get access to online learning so that they can upskill themselves, also to deliver quality education to the kids.
Brilliant. I think that's a very interesting point there. I think you mentioned the challenges around infrastructure and telecom operators and partnerships coming. I think those are some things which are happening very new to the Africa continent, because I think Africa has one of the most expensive data rates across the world. And I think telcos stepping in, NGOs stepping in, and government and policy stepping in to drive those rates down will obviously kick off the adoption that EdTech requires, I guess, to go on. Yeah, sorry, Chantal.
100%, you're correct.
Yeah.
100%, yes.
Yeah, no, thanks for adding that, Sridhar. I think it's absolutely spot on. And look, I think it's amazing the impact that EdTech, is having already in the industry, and able to the ability to close and solve some of those key challenges. And we can see, EdTech is definitely impacting education across a number of different levels. But Sharaf, how do you see it changing K-12 and higher education? And while we're on that topic, do you have any views around adult learning and upskilling as an EdTech opportunity?
Yeah, so what we've discovered is EdTech is here to stay, because if you look at the kids that we're having now, learning is much more fun with devices, with digital. So this is a channel that they have adopted and they are willing to use. This is something they are already interested in. So I see EdTech being one of the opportunities to close the gap or to address some of those challenges that we're having, because it's being delivered via a channel that is acceptable to the people that we're trying to educate. Another part of it is because of the way that the content is curated, it gives them access to global standards, global opportunities. So you are able to match with kids in Malaysia, in UK, in various angles of the world, because you're now studying in such a manner that competition and access and exposure to those other environments help you to even learn more, and you become much more competitive. Another thing that it helps with is that it's self-paced. EdTech is self-paced. So the kind of learning that we do is such that you can pause, stop, rewind, replay, because now you're not in the typical classroom, right? And you're able to learn at your pace. We've understood the fact that kids learn at different pace and they're not all the same. Some are not able to ask the right questions in class because they are shy, or because they just don't want anyone to look down on them, but you're able to pause and play with what EdTech is doing. And then the last one for me, I think, is anywhere, anytime. You can learn from any corner of the world, as far as you have the devices, the access to internet, and all that you need. You don't have to be in a physical classroom or the best school that is available in Nigeria, So that is the gap that EdTech, I think, will bridge over a period of time.
Absolutely. I think one point that you made. Yeah, I think one point that you mentioned, Sharaf, was brilliant. I think the talk about the fact that content can be democratic. It can be the best content in the world that you're serving to maybe the farthest outreach in somewhere in Africa or in Nigeria. And that enables a kid to compete with somebody from China or Malaysia or India or the US, right? I think that's one of, the key things that the leveling of the playing field that EdTech does. I think that's absolutely brilliant as we see that happening. And of course, it's playing out in multiple geographies across the world. So that's brilliant to see. And specifically on this, as ULesson, what are the problems that you guys have been addressing? I mean, what is it that you guys are solving for?
Yeah, so we position ourselves as supplementary to the learning in classrooms. Even though we have the entire syllabus of various countries within Africa, what we do is to give you content in such a manner that it complements what you learn in school, right? However, if you're not able to learn in school, it's still something you can work with and learn on your own. But it's like supplementary service to whatever you're learning. That is how ULesson is positioned. What we've discovered is digital learning is just much easier for the kids, and that is because it provides visual-based learning through digital education, right? And then it's on-demand learning. It's providing access from any location that you are, and then it's reducing the cost of the learning. So ULesson is just trying to bring together all these factors to ensure that we give or we provide learning in such a way that is useful what we have right now is over 7,000 videos across various subjects within K-12, K1 to 12, that allows you to understand individual topics within primary, secondary schools across biology, maths, English. You have practice questions, you have one-to-one tutoring, you have live lessons, so we try to bring everything together so that you have a one-stop shop that just gives you that supplementary education that you need.
I think that's
Perfect.
brilliant.
Yeah.
We all. I think you made an important comment earlier, Sharaf, is that everybody learns at a different pace and in different ways, and I think you guys are doing a brilliant, have a brilliant contribution there. EdTech in Africa in general has its own unique set of challenges compared to the rest of the world. But, looking back when ULessons started, what were the key challenges you faced as an EdTech startup?
Yeah, so there were major challenges, but we were also fortunate to start around the COVID period, right? So we launched in 2019. And we kicked off somewhere early 2020, right? So the positive side of that is that we started at a point where remote learning was becoming a norm, where people stayed at home and had to learn from home. So that helped to boost what we were doing and to show the world that this is here to stay. However, the challenges that we faced were majorly around getting square pegs in square holes, in terms of tech, in terms of getting the right people to build the application that we do. Everything that we do, or almost everything that we do, is almost local. We develop everything here. We have studios here. We have presenters. We have script writers and everything. So getting those human resources to come together and put together this kind of solid content that is world class is a lot of work. To build 7,000 videos over time, I must tell you, it is not just recording those videos, but also the animations and so much work, editing that goes into it, right? So that was one challenge. Another one was awareness. Letting people know that this kind of education is now here in Nigeria, developed by Nigerians, or is for Africa, and it is, we sell also in Uganda, we sell in Kenya, South Africa, we have customers all over. And this is content that is developed in Africa for Africa because of, accent issues and those syllabus issues and those kind of things. So getting people to understand and know that that is even available, the awareness, the marketing is a huge cost that we also had to deal with. And then the last one is probably just acceptance, just building trust between the parents and the learners to see that this is also an alternative means of learning. And it doesn't have to be only the teacher in the classroom that can clarify some of these things to you. This is an application that you can grab, download, and then use for good learning.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think couple of points that you just mentioned mimic a lot of what happened in India as well, right? So if you look at the EdTech story in India, it's been quite phenomenal over the last 6-7 years, and we've had an absolute explosion of EdTech firms in the country as well. I think I was talking to some of our friends in the EdTech world, and this is exactly what they highlighted as well. And I think what they went across in 5 years, you guys have done in 2, because they started with awareness issues. There was a whole cultural barrier to overcome in terms of learning online, because most parents thought if something on a tablet or a laptop is probably a game, right? You're not studying seriously if you're sitting on your laptop. So these barriers are some things that Indian EdTech firms also overcame. And today I think the game is all around who has the better content, who has the better success rates with students, who's able to hold people's attentions for longer, right? And renewals. I think that's the battle. That's where the battle has evolved now. So the points you touched on in terms of awareness and content, I think are absolutely relevant in your case, sure. And I think that's pretty much what is being replicated across some of the other firms across the world as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, moving on, I think So even though there's been a lot of activity around education and edtech in Africa, right? If you look at some of the statistics, edtech is still somehow underfunded. If you look at fintech in Africa, there seems to be a lot of money chasing those businesses, but funding for edtech organizations in Africa is still not probably caught the speed that it should have or the velocity that it should have. You are an exception, certainly, and there are a few others like you, I think, who are exceptions in the marketplace. What would you tell firms who are probably trying to raise funds today, whether in the edtech space or related environment? What is it that you did right? What worked for you, or how would you guide firms that are coming up to make sure that they can learn from you and probably be more successful in raising funds as well? Because funds are key, as you said. There's a lot of challenges to overcome, a lot of education to do, awareness to be created. So, how would you guide companies that are coming up in the space?
I think it's a combination of two things. One is the opportunity. You have to look for an opportunity. That is what is lacking in whatever society that you're trying to do. And the other one is to deliver value, right? So investors are always looking for someone to close the gap. What are people willing to pay for? But then it has to be something that is also valuable, that is making sense. It's not just, they're not just going to invest where they see that there is no progress, there's no good business plan, there is no deep thinking required in what you're trying to deliver. So what I will advise anybody coming up today is to ensure that they create value. When there is value in what is being laid down, then you have investors back it. They will see vision. You have to present your numbers and ensure that you have a proper structure. We have over 200 staff, almost 300 staff. We have divisions, various departments doing various things, You have product development, you have the tech team, you have sales, you have distribution team, you have telesales team, do you understand? You have to put a structure or organization together that can deliver value. If they see that, then they will want to invest in whatever you're doing, because like I said also, there is an opportunity in digital learning that is left untapped, or that was left untapped.
Understood. Yeah, I get where you're coming from in terms of value, right? Because if I look at some of the early innovations in some of the firms across the world as well, one of the early innovations was live tutorials, because probably people were not very comfortable learning from recorded content. So one of the innovations that we saw in India was a company which came up with live tutorials, and that's now kind of become the norm, right? So some of these challenges that you're talking about are absolutely spot on. Any such innovations that you see coming up in the region as well? Live tutorials or bundled offerings, offline presence. Some of the edtech companies are starting to have an offline presence as well. Do you see something like that coming up in the space in Africa as well?
Yes, we do. And I think you might have missed it, but we actually have live tutorials also. We call them live
Yes.
lessons,
Yes.
where you have the option of clicking to join a live lesson. And there you will be able to interact with the tutors by asking questions as he's teaching, you see. But yes, you're very correct. That is what is one of the aspects that I see coming up strongly in Africa. It is an opportunity that also will be filled very soon, because a lot of people are demanding for it.
Got it. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, and Sharaf, I think you touched on something really important, adding value, and your previous question Sridhar raised with you, and you've obviously demonstrating that go through 2 rounds of funding, so congratulations on that. And you also mentioned you've got your teams and your structures in place now, but so where to from here? What's the way forward for you, Lesson? And when it comes to technology, how are you guys at ULesson leveraging technology to scale, both the content side as well as the client acquisition side of things?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about technology is it just helps you to scale. It helps you to multiply in such a manner that you ordinarily wouldn't have been able to do ordinarily. I think I'm mixing the words now, but the point is you have to leverage technology to expand, to scale. What we're doing in ULesson is to go into device distribution ourselves, because we've realized that devices is a core part of what we do today. we found a lot of learners depending on their parents' devices to learn, for instance. So being able to hand over these devices to them and to be dedicated to their learning makes a lot of sense. But these devices can be expensive, right? So what we've done is to work with a company in China also to bring these devices at rates that are much more affordable.
And that's
So
your
that is
bundled
leverage.
offering, right?
Exactly, that's a bundled offering. So the third part of it is then data. So the other challenge that most learners in Africa has is data prices, right? It's so expensive. So we're working currently with the MTN, for instance, to give what we call sponsored data, so that once the bundled offering is in the hands of the child, he doesn't have to worry about data also. So leveraging technology in
Brilliant.
such manner that will help our learners to enjoy this learning without too much worry is very important and is where we're headed right now. As much as possible, we continue to look for partnerships. We're looking for how we can allow you pay over a period of time. Those kind of opportunities is how we're leveraging technology to ensure
Yeah,
that we deliver.
yeah, very interesting point you brought up there, because that's something we see that we've observed in a few of the markets as well, is funding of the course itself. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit and elaborate on what you're doing in that space where the funding, do you provide loans to subscribe to your programs, or do you
Okay,
have buy
no,
now, pay later programs?
yeah.
Because we're
So
seeing that
what
come
we
up
do.
here as well.
Okay. So I think the strength of the global world that we live in today, or the global village, is partnerships, right? We're not in the business of lending. We don't understand lending as much as the lending institutions, right? So what we do is partnerships again to ensure that we bring um, an experienced lender to
Okay.
help our parents and students to obtain these devices and pay over a period of, let's say, 6 to 12 months,
Okay.
that kind of arrangement, but it's majorly through partnerships because it
Okay.
is not a core part of our business. Yeah. But
Yeah.
what you do is then ensure that the interest rates and our learners' interest also is taken into cognizance before that deal is sealed.
Understood. Understood. And what about when you mentioned partnerships, right? I think that's a very important part of growing the EdTech ecosystem as well. How do you see the play between EdTech and the traditional educational institutions, right? Let's say schools, colleges, higher educations. What do you see their role in enabling EdTech and helping you guys grow as well? Because the more you grow, the more you feed people into higher education and tertiary schools, right? So what do you see? Any developments there? Any interest coming in from higher ed firms on what EdTech is doing, and any partnerships in that angle?
Yeah. So what we do today is up to K-12, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
we call them primary school and secondary
Secondary
school in
school. Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
And there are exams that are taken across Africa that we
Mm-hmm.
try to also focus on to ensure that these kids can grab a device, pick their classroom, and they're able to learn around those focus areas so that they can pass the exams. So what we do on our side, what we believe we're doing is preparing the students well ahead of those exams that are required to go into the tertiary institutions, so that when they pass, they're able to get in, or even when they get in, they're able to start on a very good footing. They're able to start from where they don't have to go back several steps to understand what the tutor is delivering in class, because we provide learning with animation, with visual, in such a manner that they understand concepts. So we
Understood.
believe that we are better preparing them for tertiary learning than just cramming and bundling kids into tertiary institutions. So it's a partnership. It's a win-win. We don't want to replace the tertiary organizations.
Of
We're
course
not
not. Yeah.
competing with them.
Yeah.
We just further prepare the kids for such learning that they're going into.
Understood. That's cool. And I think so. Maybe just flipping sides of the story. One is on the content side and what benefits you bring to the student as well. But the other side of it is how do you drive your own sales engine, right? So there's been a lot of evolution, a lot of challenges, a lot of how do I put it, controversies around selling EdTech bundles in India as well, because there's fairly aggressive push that happens in the market space to parents, to students, and all of that. Any similar challenges that you faced in your sales outreach? Because you're dealing with very sensitive matters. You're dealing with kids and parents and their education, right? Any interesting anecdotes? I'll share a couple after your input, but there's some very funny anecdotes as well from India. But maybe can I hear some challenges on the sales front that you faced when you started off?
Yeah, so some of the challenges that we face, the first one I'll say is trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to convince the parents that when the child gets this device or downloads the app, is going to benefit in such a manner that it can be measured and uh, the effects is seen in what the child becomes after paying for this learning for a period of 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
so there is that trust angle that you battle with on the sales side. Then the second one is that this is novel, this is new. It is not
Mm-hmm.
the typical learning in classrooms that they are used to. So you also have to sit them down and let them understand that, okay, visual learning is the new thing. It is important to these kids, and it is a way that they will learn much better than they had been learning before. And then on the sales side, I'll also say maybe the last one is also the training that is required to equip a salesman to say the
Mm-hmm.
right words or to be best prepared to convince someone to part with his hard-earned cash
Mm-hmm.
is also something that is very key and is a challenge that we have to face, because in sales you find a lot of turnover
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
staff, in salesmen. They,
Mm-hmm.
they keep moving around. So I would say those are like three major challenges around sales.
Understood. Understood. And I think, and I believe you have a mix of people sitting in a call center and field teams, and people are actually meeting parents in their homes. Has that started happening, or are you still following the remote sales process?
So we have both B2B and
Okay.
B2C sales. So we
Okay.
have sales teams who major around selling to schools and moving around and selling to individuals, while we
Mhm.
also have telesales team who are making, thousands of calls every day and trying to convince people. Yeah, we have it structured in that manner.
Understood. I'll quickly, just take a small side note and talk to you about an anecdote that I heard from one of our colleagues in Byju's, which is one of the largest edtechs in India, and they're also customers of LeadSquared. So Byju's also started the same model of pre-packaging content with a device, right, on tablets, and sending them to the prospects and prospective customers. So one of the sales guys there was telling me that during the initial days when tablets were still not popular, one of them went up to a parent and said, we give you the program and it's loaded on a tablet, and the child will be able to really pick up speed quickly after that, and be able to ace his education. The parent actually asked him, so do I have to take the tablet once a day or twice? So that's the level of challenge that some of these guys have gone through, right? In terms of creating education and awareness, they have to be taught that no, it's not a tablet that you consume, my friend. It's actually a device on which you get your content. So
Yeah, yeah.
that means
So a lot of education. Yeah, a lot of education. But the good part of education is a lot of African parents also see it as an escape of poverty. So they are
Mhm,
willing to invest a lot in their kids to get educated so
mhm.
that next generation is better financially stable, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
So yes, they are willing to pay a lot for education.
Yeah, and it's very similar in India
Obvi-
as well, right? We have a chunk of the population that has moved upwards, but there's still a very, very large chunk of our population which is still on its way up, right? So that way, I think very similar to what happens in Africa and India as well. Uh,
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great vision to have. I am working with a number of clients across Africa. Sharaf, if I go back to 2020, you guys said you started in 2019, and it's been like quite a clear progression and watching things unfold. So like 2020, it seemed like a large portion of focus was placed on lead management. So you're creating all this awareness, as you mentioned earlier, and then there was like a massive focus put on lead management. And that then, kind of very obviously moved in 2021 into student acquisition. So turning these leads into actual students. And, that obviously takes all the education that you and Sridhar were just talking about. And I see in 2022 kind of, again, a very obvious focus on student retention and consolidation. And look, most of the businesses that we've worked with, not all of them have had the opportunity to come off a tech platform. A lot of them have migrated into kind of the LeadSquared world, coming off very manual, like manual operations. And so now that we've kind of seen this movement from lead management focusing on student acquisition to student retentions, what we're seeing is LeadSquared being kind of deployed into so many other areas in the business. So not only just in sales now, like your telesales team and the field sales team, we're seeing it being deployed in support teams. We're seeing it being deployed in finance teams, and very importantly, we're doing so many more integrations with other tech systems like learning systems, student information systems, because it's becoming so critical to create this single view of your students, which in turn results in adding a lot more value and kind of reinforcing that trust with parents, to help change that behavior. So, I know that you guys have also gone down the journey of working with LeadSquared. So I just want to ask you, Sheriff, how did you get to that decision? How did you decide on going with LeadSquared, for you lesson, and how do you see LeadSquared helping with evolving when it comes to your evolving business needs?
I think that answer is very simple. We were simply looking for a company that had helped other successful global brands to get to where they were in terms of what LeadSquare is doing. And of course, LeadSquare came up, and then we decided to give it a try. So, uh, I think it's just common sense when you look at successful brands using a particular tool or software, and then you try to follow because you know that there's obviously some value in that. And where we see Lead Square helping us or getting us to is where we then have much more sales efficiency. And that is something we're really looking forward to. We want we want to get to that level, and we hope we're already on that path.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sharaf. That's great. And I think that's, goes without saying, is that, you have a journey from K1 to K12. And, at the end of the day, when you end up sitting with a single view of your students, it really enables you, to get a deep data-driven understanding of your students. And ultimately, that has a significant impact on your customer lifetime value, because you can really leverage that data asset. So, we certainly looking forward to being part of that journey with you.
Yeah, and hopefully, we talked to a company 4 years down the line who says we saw you listen adopt lead square, therefore we did as well.
Yeah.
That's where we want to get to, right?
Yes, yes, that's where we'll get to. Very
Perfect.
good. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you so much, Sharaf. It's been a super pleasure speaking to you so far, and maybe we'll just take a few questions if there are any from the audience. Not sure if we have too many questions. Karthika, do you want to get back on track here?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the discussion. First of all, I definitely learned a lot. We got a proper walkthrough of how hard it is to build a successful edtech business. So thank you so much, Raf, and thank you to Sridhar and Chantel for asking the right questions and making this fruitful. So with that, I think we can take up questions. We have a few questions. The
Okay.
first question is from Beckham. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. The question is, as an educational technologist, I train teachers on how to use edtech tools such as ULISTEN to improve education. One of the most pertinent problems we often face is poor internet connection in my area. How should we implement edtech in areas of low connectivity?
Hmm. That's a tough question because we don't have control over internet connectivity. But what I must say is, if you look at the trend in Africa since the early 2000s up till now, we have moved from 2G to 3G to 4G, and now they're already testing 5G. Things continue to improve. And I believe that very soon, penetration of data across so many areas will get even much better. Another part of it is ULesson, for instance, is trying to add a download feature
Mhm.
whereby, just like
I was
Netflix
told
and
that.
YouTube,
Right.
once you have good connectivity, you're able to pull that data in and then watch later. So on our side, we're trying to improve technology that we're using to deliver. On the telco side, also penetration is increasing over time. It's much better from where we were 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. I tell you, data penetration, I mean.
Understood. And I think the fact that you guys hand out your own devices would actually help you control the download feature as well very well.
Correct.
Understood. Understood. Cool. And on the data front, I mean, is there any policy changes the governments are doing across? Are the African countries, grouping together to drive down rates on data? Because I think mobile data is something that's very critical for successes of not just EdTech but any tech-driven initiative across the continent, right?
Yeah, so yes, that is one of the focus of the government. For instance, in Nigeria, it's been delivered through the NCC, Nigerian Communications Commission. And
Mm-hmm.
every time they sit with the telco or the telecommunication operators and see how they can bring data prices down. What they
Mm-hmm.
also are trying to do is to see if they can have specific bundles for specific verticals like education,
And
right?
healthcare,
So
probably.
they
Yeah.
can have something different and cheaper for someone that wants to use ULesson as
Yeah.
against someone that wants to use
Netflix.
maybe Netflix. Exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Okay. Over to you, Karthika. If there's any more questions.
Yes, there are more questions. Bekim, I hope that answers your question. I think accessibility is definitely something that is a concern, but as Sharaf mentioned, that is definitely getting better in the near future. So we'll go to the next question. It's from Axel. They ask, how did you go about building awareness for you lesson? Um,
Awareness is trying to put people as trying to put ULesson as top of mind, right? When they see the brand, and then when the salesperson or the telesales person reaches out to them. So a lot of money is invested in offline and digital activities. So digital and offline marketing is very key. You have to put a lot of ads out there on TV so that when parents are watching, they see. It doesn't mean that they'll buy at that time, but it starts to create awareness that there's something called ULesson. They know the purpose, they know what you're doing, so that when a telesalesperson or when you then pass a digital advertisement to them, they're able to click and give you the kind of leads or referral that you need. So yes, it's built through a lot of investment in marketing, whether offline or online.
And a lot of your messaging when creating awareness has also been strengthening that, how much value you actually had. So telling the right stories as well. And
Correct. Correct.
yeah,
How you position the story is very key,
yeah.
because people also get tired of a lot of marketing that comes through these days. So you need to position it in such a way that it draws attention, and the parent is interested to click or look at what you're offering. Yes. Thank you for that, Chantal.
Cool. And so, any other insights on how ULesson went about standing out? What was the messaging, or what key standout USPs did you guys talk about in your marketing initiatives?
I think what makes ULesson stand out is the amount of investment and dedication that we have put into this business. It's the structure or the office space alone that we use is about 3, 4 floors of people doing different things. We ensure that we put our best into everything that we do, from the creators to the last person that sells to a customer. So it's just ensuring that you tick all the I's, the dots, and deliver in such a manner that you are giving value to whoever is willing to part money for what
Understood.
you are offering them.
Yeah, so you're signaling intent to be a world-class service provider at every level. That's what you're doing when you say that you have a great
Correct.
office, you have great quality content, great quality salespeople. That's precisely the messaging that you're passing on. Brilliant. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. Correct.
All right, thank you so much. Before we take up the next question, just wanted to say to the audience, if you have any more questions, please do put it up. We do have a few more minutes left. Yeah, other than that, we have one more question from Axel again. He asks, how did you build trust with the parents?
Yeah, so we have something that is very unique in what we do, which is called Lenin Advisors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So before you buy, we have to convince you to buy. And then after we buy, immediately we take it up and start to talk to both the parent and the students. What we do is have a dedicated person to that parent or child, and that person becomes like the counselor,
Mm-hmm.
so that whenever they have a question and any concerns or anything, they have someone that they can call that is dedicated to them. The person that we have on our team also looks through the child's dashboard and is able to tell that you're learning this much, you're not learning this much, you're having challenges in biology, you're having challenges in mathematics. If you spend more time on English, your score will be better, you know. So we have that dedicated resource to each and every one of our students that also talks to the parents, you see. So this is how we ensure that we get the trust of the parents,
Yeah, that's a
so
great point.
they don't get worried every time they see our calls or they renew services with you lesson.
Understood. And I think to enable that resource, the counselor who's actually seeing the different data points of the student, that leads back to the tech that you've built in your app, right? You're able to capture, I'm guessing, all those signals of how much time a student is spending on each subject, on each video, on different subject streams, how they're performing in the tests. Maybe you want to walk us through a little bit on how you thought through the process of building the application as well?
So very short, I'll say that Rome was not built in one day, right?
Yeah.
What we do is we built the critical app that we thought was what the parents or the students needed. And
Mm-hmm.
then over time, over the 2 3 years that we have been in business, we have um, improved on what we had before now. So
Yeah.
it is taking a lot of feedback from the learners that we have today, listening to them and see, trying to check what is their pain, and
Mm-hmm.
then improving on whatever we deliver or we sell to them.
Yeah.
So yes, there are lots of data points, there are lots of improvements, there are lots of areas that we have added over a period of time, but we continue to do that because we take feedback and we improve on what
Yeah,
we're selling to them.
that's the life of a startup, right? You're flying the plane as you build it.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have one more question from Eric. He asks, do you have a freemium offering? If yes, do most of your customers start on the free tier and or go straight to the paid?
Yes, just like many apps, we do have the freemium offering. And what you have is two maximum of 2 videos in a day, right?
Okay.
So you can download the app and you can watch 2 videos every day. So that's the free version of the app. But once you pay, you then have access to the entire library for learning. Yes, we have the freemium version, and it allows a lot of our learners to understand what we offer, to see the value before paying for it. We have
Oops.
had over 2.5 million downloads of our app to date, till date. I think there might be a problem with your connection, Chantal.
Yeah, I think they connecting back. There we go. We got Kartika back.
Yes, yes. Even Sridhar's gone off. All right.
You
I
both
don't,
disappeared. Yes.
I don't know if it's an issue in Bangalore. Then it probably is.
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
but I think how many downloads did you say you had of the app, Sharaf? I missed it. It was 2 points.
Over 2.5 million downloads
Wow. Wow. And I
from
think,
both Android and iOS stores. Yeah.
yeah, that's brilliant. And I think, what we were talking about a little bit earlier, again, becoming data driven. It's like every single, let's call it app event or app activity, now continues to get added to your library of, let me call it, your student journey. So all these things enable you just to keep improving on that student journey and the parent journey as well. So and hopefully they stay on that journey with you right through to K-12. I think it's absolutely brilliant the work that you guys are doing at
100%.
Lesson. Yeah.
Thank you very much. 100%. We just keep improving, but we have to watch out for the important data points and information to
Yes.
ensure that we give the best to our audience. Yeah,
Cool.
you're correct.
Thank you so much, Sharaf. I think that's it with the questions, Kartika. Maybe we can wrap it
Yes.
up. Yeah.
I don't see any more questions. Yes.
Okay.
So yes, I think we can wrap the session up then. Thank you so much again, Sharaf. We learned a lot. Most importantly, we learned that transparency is really important within the EdTech, the parent, and the student when it comes to running a successful EdTech business. Thank you so much for walking us through the whole process. Again, Chantal and Sridhar, thank you so much for asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Again, thank you to the audience for joining us and making this session a very fruitful session. I hope everyone learned as much as I did. And yeah, that's about it from my side. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Sharaf, for
You're
joining us. It was a
welcome.
pleasure having you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much,
Sharaf.
everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. And
See you guys.
Kartika. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
See you guys. Good day. Good
Thanks,
day,
Yes,
everyone.
keep
everyone.
well.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. All right, let me just end the session. Thank you.